Hello, everybody. As usual, give me a second. It's gonna take me a couple of seconds to post the links everywhere and whatnot and get started. Those who will be watching it later in the recording, don't worry. I will make sure to edit the recording so it's gonna be edited. It's not gonna be that long. You're not gonna have to bear and wait and listen for this beginning. I'm not showing the screen yet because I'm still getting the links set up and opening the chat so I can see it on another window. Bear with me, ladies and gents. As I said before, I'm rather new to the whole streaming live thing, so please bear with me. All right, I think I got the links sent out. Do need to do another thing here, but that can take a second, doesn't matter. All right, so let me just switch over my screen so you can see Tesla in the time being, at least those who will end up watching this. If you guys are already here in the live, I'm sorry that it's taking so long. As I said, I'm kind of new to this, and yeah, there's a lot of things that are not working as they should. As always, it makes sense, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so as you can see on the screen, per my prediction, that level, that 260.67, ended up being an introduction to the price action. As you can see right now, actively we are testing that level. Now, the fact of the matter that we broke below doesn't mean anything, so to speak. Just the same way it doesn't necessarily. I'll explain exactly what I mean. What it doesn't mean. What it does mean. Does it mean that that's it and Tesla is going down as I predicted in my previous video? Not necessarily. I'll actually tell you, those who are new to my channel and find themselves here by coincidence because of the tags or something on that sort. I'll tell you a couple of things. I'm actually very bullish on Tesla. I absolutely think Elon is brilliant in a lot of ways, and I think his overall plan is not understood by most people. And as such, and the sources of revenue for Tesla right now are few to none. And as you can tell, most people look at this as a car company. Wall Street still sort of perceives this company as a car company, which is incorrect. I mean, from my point of view, I'm not going to say it's incorrect. It's just how I perceive it. It's not a car company. It's a lot more. It's not a car. Oh, here I am. I'm doing some nonsense there. So what do I want to show you here and say, those who, I'm going to get the bottom line out, sort of out of the way as soon as I can, which is now. I'm going to say, look, the technicals for Tesla are actually good, are phenomenal, in fact. If you really want to look at Tesla on the overarching sort of the bottom line here, if you need to run and you're just here for a couple of seconds, right? I'm going to repeat that later for those who will probably join. Look, in the 6 months chart, on the 6 months, according to the stochastic RSI, as I showed you before how it works, supposedly we're just about to flip over, because that's kind of how most people perceive this rhythm of the market, simply by going up and down in these indicators. That's not exactly how they work. It's a lot more complex. This is why I'm not a fan of the RSI. And if you're more attentive, of course, you can actually notice that the D here is the dominant. As I explained before, when the orange line is dominant, you're going to have a downtrend. Okay, just like here. For example, right now you see that this entire period, the orange here, the D, the K is the blue line. Okay, that sort of represents to you, it should represent bearish momentum. Okay, so as you can tell, we've accelerated downwards until we had this convergence, right? But now we had, if you're attentive enough, you can notice right now again the orange is dominant, right? Meaning we're having more bearish momentum on the larger scheme of things, right? So it's So again, it's not perfect as I just described it, but I'll show you exactly what I mean. The technicals for Tesla overall, if you're looking at from the point of view of momentum, here we don't have any data. Well, that's why I'm not showing you 12 months. On the 3 months, you can see again similar phenomena, right? So we've been oversold for a long period of time. Yes, D is dominant right now, so the bearish momentum, but it's just about to converge, and as it will converge, of course, you'll have the bullish momentum take over, and slowly but surely we're going to start to recuperate, given the position that we are. And if we're going to compare it to something like the S&P, that Tesla is basically lagging behind, right? The S&P is give or take somewhere around here in comparison to Tesla. In fact, probably somewhere around here, if not even higher, if I'm going to open the chart and put them in comparison to one another. But just to kind of point out that Tesla technically is lagging behind the S&P, which is it's a part of. And I'll explain later why the problems that I'm talking about, what I think the Tesla will continue moving downwards within the confines of this channel, which is very sad to me overall. If to be 100% objective, I'm not happy about Tesla not doing well. Actually, as I said, I'm very bullish on Tesla. I like Tesla. I do think Elon is a brilliant CEO. I do think that Tesla is still in its diapers and going to grow a lot, but I have to be realistic about things. And part of the technical analysis thing is not just reading into the current story, but also understanding how the technicals, how the actions of the money, the leading money in the industry, is actually showing how things might work out. Now, we have to be also very objective that if you go to the smaller time frame, see things a little bit more granularly, you can see a little bit of a entanglement starting here, right? Entanglement, the same way a fishing line will get entangled within itself. So temporarily, we are kind of getting, it seems like, stuck. Now, some people, of course, will be more knowledgeable. These levels, pardon me, are very strong. It's not a big surprise that we end up testing them again and again and again and again. And also the Hawkeye and those who are more sharp than others kind of noticed these gaps, right? And there are holes in the price action. Now, the problem here, it's I'm just going to switch over to the 4 hours as well later, actually. So, well, no, let's do that now. So you can tell there's a bit of a difference between these higher time frame charts and these lower time frame charts. On the lower time frames, we're gonna also see these more yellowish and bluish columns, which is post-market and pre-market. If you're attentive and you notice how the recent price action have been going on for Tesla recently, a lot of the price action have been taking place in the pre-market and just as the market opens up. A lot of these movements are perceived, if we're going to switch the chart over from extended hours to regular hours, now suddenly we have a whole bunch of holes. Yes, there are a lot of robotic systems that understand that these holes and see that these holes actually are not real. They're pseudo holes, they're pseudo gaps, they're not real gaps, meaning these gaps actually were filled. The price action actually filled them in. But in the pre and post market, right? So, but you also have a lot of other bots who perceive them still to be a hole. And we're going to return and talk about gaps and sort of what kind of a problem in this instance they pose. I want to show you, and the problem is that the market at the end of the day, from my experience, remember, none of this is financial advice, it's up to you, but from my experience, from what I've seen over the years, and I know that actually works, but it's up for conjecture, that these holes get filled, meaning you'd have in a full price action, full candlesticks coming through these same levels to which the hole is correlated to. Okay, if the hole basically shows you a hole between a certain price level to a certain price level, all you need to have is full price action passing through. Okay, and full candlesticks. If you're going to have another hole open up on the other hole, you're basically going to have almost like a funnel, and you're still going to have just a smaller hole to be filled, a smaller gap. Now, I want to bring back the extended hours because that's how I like to look at the chart. And the thing is, with the daily chart, as we were looking at it, the thing is that these candlesticks, the way they work, they engulf, they combine all the rest of the price action all together. So these that you saw before in the smaller time scale are a part of this, part of these candlesticks. It cannot show you that just a part of the candlestick represents a pre and post market, since it's intermittent and it's not continuous, right? So you basically end up with this sort of chart that does not have pre and post market, and it also have glaring holes in it. These holes, I believe, will be filled. Gaps can take a long time to be filled. Do all gaps get filled? Not all gaps get filled. In fact, if you listen to the technical analysts, there is an argument that says that anywhere between 80 to 90% of all gaps per period are going to get closed, right? So again, it's I know it sounds a little bit complex. That's why I recommend for anybody and anybody to learn technicals, right? So you guys will actually know what it's all about, and you actually will be able to not just listen blindly to the people who claim they know what they're talking about, but actually analyze from your own point of view, from your own logical standpoint, your knowledge, whether what they're saying makes any sense. It's actually very important. So I personally, in my personal assessment, and I'm going to get to it as well a little bit later down the video, this hole will be filled as well. You see there's a gap right here. There's in fact several of them, and they're all going to get filled. I do believe my own assessment that eventually Tesla right now, although testing these resistances, and we actually ended up running far higher than I thought. I was rather certain that we're going to get slowed down by this level of 213 and eventually slow down by the trend resistance that we've been sort of keeping up for quite a long time. I showed this on larger time frames, how these play the role. In fact, on the smaller time frames, we can see how we get entangled with them as well. The same way we're getting entangled here. But what happened here, it's something else. That basically what happened is this essentially slowed us down, this resistance, or in a couple of other ones that we had along the way. And the major resistance that stopped us, which technically speaking, it's kind of arguable right now, because if we're looking on the smaller time frame, as we see, we're testing it right now. The fact of the matter that we slipped below doesn't mean a thing. We might as well slip above and below from here on out, 2 weeks onwards, until we get all the way until the earnings, right? We could get stuck on this level until the earnings. Yes, that's a possibility. That's something that actually can happen. Okay. In my assessment, that's not what's going to happen. And my assessment, as you can tell, according to the stochastic RSI, for example, according to this, on the 1 minute time frame, we have some downwards momentum, at least on the shorter time frame. We're already on the movement, so on a trend downwards, if you can tell, in this pseudo channel. Because remember, on the 1 minute, everything's going to flip over several times over simply throughout the day, let alone the weekend onwards. So that's the beauty. Let's go over the time frames. On the 5 minutes, it shows just the opposite. In fact, it shows that we're probably going to retrace back to these levels that we were testing earlier, the 64. Maybe I probably should look if we have some form of intraday resistance over there. That's why we got stopped by this. I assume we do. So as you can tell right now, we're also again slipping right above. That's not an abnormality. We're testing this level, whether it's going to end up being as support, right? Even for a long period of time. I'm going to go through all the period, so all the time frames, so you can understand how I perceive it. Again, 30 minutes looks great. Still, those are small enough to represent maybe potentially a movement to 273, sort of get stuck within this minefield that is a very strong resistance, also a very attractive point for the bots, generally speaking. They perceive this simply to be a very strong level and would oftentimes get attracted to trade within it. Same thing with the 45 minutes. So we have momentum upwards, beautiful. As I said, looking at Tesla individually, we're just or about to flip over, find ourselves establishing support on that 260 level right here, and eventually moving upwards. So, or already moving upwards. Other than the daily, for example, here, right once we switch over to the larger time frames, things start to get a little bit wonky. On the daily time frame, we're starting to see, for example, a reversal, right? So, and this one is dominant over these, essentially. The only one that can be sort of correlated directly to is the 4 hours, because the daily and the 4 hours basically represent something very similar. The only difference that in the 4 hours you see the day broken down to its finer pieces, which is basically, as we said, the pre, post, and the actual trading day as it is, and you get the combination of 3 into a single candlestick on the daily, right? So on the daily, it's not looking all that great, but remember, we usually, once we get into oversold territory, at least on these time frames, we end up spending some time here before we break down, so all fine and dandy, but the candlestick is already starting to represent something different. On the weekly, again, some issues, right? It does not look good. It looks like we're about to flip over, but once we go to the monthly, and it's the same principle works here, the monthly is dominant over the weekly, meaning even if temporarily, just think about it, if you have 4 weeks within a month, you might as well spend 2 weeks out of these 4 doing what you can see on the weekly, fulfilling the whole process of downward, spending the other 2 kind of finding support on whatever that is, right? And yes, those who notice there's a huge hole right here right now, the weekly is we'll get to it. We'll get to it. I do believe this hole is going to get filled, and all of this is going to get filled. And I'm sorry to say, those of you who want me to be bullish right now and accommodate their wants and needs, and they expect their portfolio to give them amazing ROI tomorrow. I'm sorry. I'm not going to tell you what will make you feel better. I'm just going to tell you what I see. Okay, that's kind of what's going to happen on this channel. I would love if you guys can comment in the comment section. It's okay if you want to disagree with me, as long as everything is done with respect to one another. I have no problem with you disagreeing and saying with other words that I'm basically an idiot. That's absolutely fine, okay? That's absolutely normal. Remember, I'm just sharing with you my meandering experience in the stock market, my knowledge, and my perception of how things are going to play out. You guys are in charge of your own portfolios, in charge of your own wealth. And nobody will manage your money better than you will. So I'm definitely not going to advise you what actions you should take. This is not what it's all about. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing. So, and the larger we go, which is where the things flip over again, on the monthly, again, it's dominant over the other time frames, and it looks very bullish, it looks perfect. The problem is the perception is incorrect here, I would say, and again, that comes from my meandering experience in the market. People perceive this rhythm of the stochastic RSI to simply go up and down, sell, buy, sell, and so onwards. The thing with this is that who says that's not going to be one of these instances where we're basically going to peak out somewhere right here and break back down, right? And then we're going to have a deeper correction. Who says? There are tools to understand these things. I'm not even going to try and attempt to explain the depth of how this and the proper advanced analysis is done. We can understand what the difference between this wave and which one is what, and where do we really have more bullish momentum, and what is testing what. I'm not going to attempt this right now. It's going to be insane. And I'm trying to simplify this. I want the average person to be able to understand that again, this is just my opinion. This, in my opinion, is misleading. What I'm perceiving and expecting for the market to do is to do something akin to this, basically correct downwards at some point soon. I know it's something that you're not going to see here on the 3 months, for example, the same way. It's the way you perceive this is that's going to skyrocket. But you also need to understand that, and it's something I referenced in my other video about Palantir, and I think SoFi, and I've mentioned this and said something about this, is that you cannot have a flower or sort of anything thrive in a bad soil, in a poisoned soil. In other words, if the indices, the overall market right now suffers a serious downtrend, serious reversal, because we've been bullish for quite a serious period of time. In fact, completely blew through all the resistances and anything that I thought we're going to get stopped by. And I'll explain and I'll show you right now. It all correlates to the indices. My assessment was that we're going to get stopped by this resistance that we can see the price action that did actually get entangled with quite clearly. You can see it right here. Oh, pardon me. You can see it right in this area. I can see it quite clearly here. And the more granular we're going to go, the better we're going to see that entanglement. As I said before, various channels, various forces that are working on the market. So I assessed worst case scenario where might sort of slip through this resistance, of course, which is very natural, and test it and find ourselves actually getting stopped by the overall channel. Well, lo and behold, we actually shot through, continued this temporary shorted period, because that's basically derived from the 4-hour chart right now. Okay, I'm going to show you right now something very interesting. I'm going to try and make it as visible as I can. Pardon me for making it so noisy on the chart. So basically my assessment was that worst case scenario, we're going to get stuck somewhere around here, even though continuing on that path, all the channels and all the resistances collided right here around this area. So it made sense to me that this is going to be, and technicals, of course, on larger time frames implied that that's going to be the case. But the market is just tremendously over exuberant right now, as you can see. We can go higher for longer, as the phrase goes. The market can be irrational longer than we can remain solvent. In my assessment, though, this is not going to be long-lived. Although, again, I got it wrong a couple of times. Although, remember, I did get absolutely 100% correct the COVID bottom. Oh, I probably shouldn't have said that. The thing bottom, yeah. You can go into the Discord community. It's kind of a known thing. I'm not just making it up. In fact, I predicted it a couple of months before it ever got to it, and I was certain that's going to be the case, even though everybody were very, very bearish at the time. And now I'm going to tell you that I didn't just mimic Tom Lee. Most know I wasn't paying attention. I just didn't care at that time. I was too busy with my own world falling apart and whatnot. So basically, I do expect this, although I got this somewhat wrong for now in terms of my assessment of the highs, and we overshot my highs. I do think we're going to correct downwards. And the correlation to Tesla here is very, very, very simple. Is that the Tesla, the flower in the soil, cannot thrive in an environment that is breaking down or basically being poisoned. In other words, Tesla is not going to first match the highs that it is missing and then start breaking down if the indices start breaking down. No, 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 no. Tesla will start breaking down if the indices will start breaking down as well. So, and by the way, gaps, which I just kind of want to reiterate and show, notice we have the S&P in general, the indices look like Swiss cheese. Okay, you see all these green lines. I'm going to try and make it all a lot more visible for you, ladies and gents, just so you can see all that stuff a little better. And I don't need the, okay, that's good, that will work for us. So as you know, you notice these sideways channels, okay, these horizontal channels that I have that are green, marked in green. Some of them are red right here because those are the closed ones. No, actually, those are the downtrend ones. That's why. But they're just kind of, they're limited, they're closed off, right? They just don't go into oblivion. But as you can tell, there is a gap right here. This gap, just to reiterate the reasoning to the gaps, this gap was open. You can look at the dates right here on the bottom. They appear. Was opened on around Wednesday, 21st, 22nd of February this year. Okay, and it took, as you can tell, the entirety of March, the entirety of April, all the way to the 16th, so you might as well say 2 months, 2 full months, calendar months, to close the gap, right? So these processes, in fact, it took actually longer, a lot longer. I'm not going to go. It took us the price action just to penetrate, and we're looking at the 4-hourly chart, so that might as well probably took several days to close that gap fully. Right, and probably was a process of in and out, in and out. In fact, you can see this process of sort of into the gap, out of the gap, into the gap, eventually sliding through, and eventually what we would consider closing the gap. Right, so this is no longer a hole, although it serves different purposes now. But I'm not gonna touch upon that now. We have other holes right here. Some people will, Greg, we're not going to close them. Look, we're so far off, right? I mean, we might as well forgot about them. The bots forgot about no one cares. No, that's not how it works. Gaps can take months and long periods of time, far longer than just months, so just these 2-3 months, depending on how you want to look at it, to close the gap. This process can take quite a long period, right? Can take sometimes Well, a long period. And it's suspicious that we have all these gaps starting to form, and we have a lot, not just these few that I'm showing you. As we're going to go lower, the S&P is full of holes. It looks like Swiss cheese. And in my assessment, these gaps are going to start to get filled as we're going to see a correction. And you can see right here, there are hints of trouble ahead. This is the 4-hour chart. This is the daily chart. This is the weekly chart. This is the monthly chart. So if you noticed, I right now went through several charts through the entire transition. Yes, on the 3-month chart, of course, you will say, well, Greg, based on your logic, we have more to go before we go into overbought territory, dwell some time there, and then go downwards. Which I understand why some people would argue that, and sure, this is why there are far more advanced tools to measure and understand what really is going on in the market. And it sort of is visible how we're losing momentum and starting to curve sideways. And you guys can see here how normal it is for the price action to slip out, even out of the larger channels. That is an absolutely normal thing. So my perception is as such that we're going to slowly move down to at least the bottom of the channel. My perception is actually things are gonna get far worse as we're gonna go. There are a lot of reasoning to it. If it's oil prices, inflation overall, what we might, of course, it's arguable. Depends on who you're gonna ask. Some would say we're already in a recession. It's like a crab that is being boiled alive. We just haven't recognized it yet, because we haven't went over the particular threshold of the particular indicator to imply that we have. By the way, to just show you that I will always sort of going to be, I'm going to stand by what I've predicted. As you can tell, my prediction was these areas, and this is by how much we overshot so far. This is this wedge that we started moving within, which I thought probably is going to stop us in one way or another, and eventually we ended up even overshooting that. So all in all, we're not really, those who understand and perceive the market in these longer movements and cycles, if you will, understand that this is insignificant. This is normal behavior, especially to such an exuberant market, such a hungry market, post everything that we went in COVID. In this generation, in fact, it's very surprising. Everybody wants everything to happen yesterday, let alone tomorrow, right? So with today's sentiment, I'm not even surprised that things worked out the way they have. Maybe I was wrong about the technical analysis from the perception of the overall harmonics. Could be. One way or another, what we're getting here right now does not say nothing good. Because if I was wrong about this point, and those who know, and that point is basically here, that implies that COVID was a walk in the park. We will have far, far worse implications to what to come, to what we've already went through. Again, I'm not going to break it all down. This is where I'm going to do a shameless plug to our wonderful community. Here it is. Here is the wonderful community I was just plugging. Here it is. It's basically all done on Discord. Anybody and everybody who will join, remember that when you go through the process, you have to do not forget, don't just stay in limbo and dwell in this one channel. Don't forget to confirm. It's very important. Once you confirm, you will be able to access all the public channels. Yes, we have a public and a private server. To those who want to know, various topics: Palantir, Tesla, options, charts, commodities, crypto, tabloids, memes, all the fun stuff you can see here, and many more things, many more activities that I'm not gonna expose right now. I don't want to dox anybody here by accident. And then we, of course, by the way, shout out to Tim Titan, our main admin, a friend of mine, who, an amazing person. We're probably going to talk about him a lot. Tim, shout out to you, brother. Love you much. This is our private section kind of part of the Discord. We also have Tom's Academy, Tom's Value Academy, a tremendously valuable resource that I recommend tremendously. I will also add the link to Tom's Patreon in the description below once I'm done with this, because I'm kind of all over the place. Which, by the way, guys and girls, if anybody can give me a sign that you're alive, because I'm not seeing anything from the chat this time. Just anything, just kind of like, what's up, a number and anything, because I'm starting to think I'm alone here. Hope I'm not. Hello, just hit. Okay, love that. Thank you so much. I was starting to think I'm all alone here. Thank you. Good to see you here, and I appreciate the viewership. So yeah, as I was saying, the Discord is a tremendous good resource. I of course have my own academy in which I teach technical analysis. But you don't have to sign up to none of this stuff. You don't have to pay or a single dollar. Join our public part of the server, or the server if you will. It's an amazing resource. It has a lot of information. It's not one of those things where we do not participate. We participate a lot in both. You just need to understand that we're human, and we do these videos, we do a lot of stuff. We also have to come up with the ideas, the analysis, all of the stuff that we do. So basically it all takes time. So back to the chart. Everybody's more than welcome. The links are in the description below. Yes, I have a Patreon. That's a great way to support me. It's only $10 a month. Will give you access to the full Discord here, to the weekly Zoom calls that we do. We try to make them weekly, although, as I said, we're human. As you can tell, again, as I said, we do so much. It's really hard to keep up with everything. And I really appreciate the members of the community who have been more than tolerant with us and patient with everything that's going on. So I just love that and tremendously appreciate your support, everybody. Literal gratitude from the bottom of my soul, not just heart, from the core of my soul, not just the bottom, the core of it. Okay, so back to the chart. As basically as I was saying, to those who stayed this long and understand the idea, the principle is very simple. And sort of back to the idea is that I expect this not to hit all the way through here to the stochastic RSI, top of the RSI, the 80. I do expect the RSI to break down fairly shortly, start breaking down, converging. The D will take dominance, and hence the bearish momentum will take charge. We'll start moving downwards. It's going to be tremendously unpleasant to the market, up to 40 or 40% overall, sort of, again, up to 40% retracement on the overall market. Of course, it's all going to be gradual. Those who of you expect to wake up tomorrow and find themselves at the price of 4,000 and leave weird comments to Greg where it is, why is it not happening, please don't bother. That's a waste of your time. The only thing you're doing, you're adding engagement to my videos, which is great. Thank you for that. Disagreements with normal good attitude are more than welcome in the comment section. More than welcome. And yeah, that's kind of the perception. So Tesla cannot thrive. Neither does any of these assets that I spoke about recently and will talk about probably, because most of them end up being highly correlated to the indices. We cannot thrive in this downtrend environment that I'm expecting to see. I could be wrong. This is not financial advice. You do you. I'm expecting as a first step, sort of as a first downtrend that is going to be significant and serious. Of course, there are various supports. As I said, it's not going to be linear. Do not expect it to sort of just drop tomorrow. There are various supports and resistances and processes that we'll have to go through. Of course, it's going to seem linear on this chart because it's 3 months. So basically, each candlestick represents a quarter. So it will seem rather steep. As we often say, we gain in droplets, in tiny little droplets, and we lose in buckets, right? That's not an abnormality. And if you notice, all in all, we were just staying within the confines of this larger channel. I was rambling for far too long. Hi, everybody. Hi. Arnon, lots of love. Arnon also is, which Arnon, by the way, I'm going to give you, you're going to be moderator here, so, because I cannot keep up for the life of me. Tell me if that gives you enough power to manage the whole stuff and make sure everything is clean and organized. I hope I see some of you are amused there and enjoying this. Good info. All right. I appreciate that. Arnon is an admin, a moderator on the Discord, a tremendously valuable member. Good friend as well. I do not talk about options. If anyone here is interested in talking about options, I wouldn't call him per se an expert, although I probably should, because the dude has been in the industry for a long period of time. He knows what he's doing. Again, not an expert, but definitely a reliable source of information and knowledge with regards to options. Just a very good, smart person that I can recommend talking to when in the community and interested with regards to options. He considers technical analysis as well. He considers the fundamentals. So quite a knowledgeable person. Shout out to you, Arnon. Much love. Useless facts. Arnon is a hero. Arnon is a true hero. I'm not even kidding. Arnon is a legend. That is true. So, boys and girls, I'm kind of done with the explanation. Before I sign off, I really want you to let me know if you have any questions. If you want, feel free. Let's do some Q&A. You know, I'm going to be glad to answer something, sort of, if I can, if it's, you know, possible to explain right now in a quick fashion, and has to do with the video and the topic. Shout out to all of you, ladies and gents, who joined. I tremendously appreciate the viewership. And yeah, it's gonna take me a second to follow up on the comments because it's delayed. Superhero. Useless, you're a legend. Thank you. You are a legend. I appreciate the kind words. I'm not a superhero. I'm just a regular dude. That just simply was my job doing these sort of things for many years, and that's it. That's the only reason I'm rather good at this. If I can brag, so to speak, and call myself that. While we're waiting and talking and waiting, we can look at the charts. As I told you, see, price action slipped right above. So the fact of the matter is we're going to slip through and on and off, above and below various times, is not indicative of anything. Not yet. We're going to see something that is more indicative of a confirmation of this support for a period of time, or another movement upwards, which actually would be very indicative. But remember, even though actually, if I have to be realistic, and it's going to seem like it's rather high, and that's probably an indication that that's it, we're done with this level, but not really. All of this process that we've done all along could have been all about testing the 273 level up to 260. Consider this as a channel. Consider this entire level, this entire thing, as a channel, as a force. Okay? This entire thing, it's very powerful, to kind of put it in simple terms. So it's not going to be surprising if we're going to find the price action getting entangled within the whole thing. All right. Well, boys and girls, it looks like you have no questions. I hope that's because everything I've explained is rather clear. Those who will end up telling me later in comments that I was not clear, I'm going to sort of simplify here and summarize if I can. Right now, the momentum and everything, so that the technicals for Tesla individually as an asset look great. The problem with it is not Tesla, is the soil. In other words, the overall indices, the overall economic situation, the overall inflation, the overall oil prices, the overall, all of it, the supply chain disruptions that are still has not gone back to normality, and probably will remain this way for a long time until the Middle East will settle down, which probably is going to get worse soon. We have to be realistic. We just have to be realistic about things. And again, mentioning the thing that I've mentioned in the other video, Brett Cooper's video, where she showed this trend of how people reordering food from 2020, and the same food orders are costing them almost or up to 4 times the price. So Bidenomics definitely failed. Brett, please do not, kill my channel or whatever you guys do there, the big YouTubers. I really love my channel. Love the video, Greg. Melvin, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for the support and the viewership. I hope I was able to give some new knowledge or information and just something to add something to you guys into your process. Thanks again. Okay. Not great, Greg, but sure. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for the kind words, good people. Yeah, that's it. I guess I have nothing to add. That's it. Boys and girls, have a wonderful rest of the week. Wonderful weekend from here if I'm not going to make any videos. I'm going to try and make this as consistent as I can to keep you up to speed. Unless, of course, I have nothing to add. If, nothing has changed since yesterday, I'm not going to make a video. It's going to be pointless. Just rewatch the old one. Give me some views. Everybody, don't forget to smash the like. I'm not, unlike Tom, I'm going to smash the like. ring the bell. Don't forget to make change it to everything, so you're gonna be informed whenever I go live, and you're gonna be up to speed on my perceptions on the market and all that great stuff. That's it, boys and girls. Have a wonderful rest of the week. Thank you for your viewership. Bye bye.